Hi, I'm Dawn Damari, and you're listening to and watching another episode of A Teaspoon of Healing. And today, the topic is healing from writer's anxiety and overcoming self doubt as a writer. Now, of course, this can apply to many creative pursuits as well as non creative pursuits, to be honest. So, art, music, honestly, whatever you want to do. But I'm speaking about writing because this is something I like to do. For those of you who don't know, many of you know that I'm a registered dietitian, but my previous career was in corporate communications. So I did a lot of corporate writing, technical writing, journalistic writing, but I also did a lot of creative writing, especially when I was much younger. And I've started again. So my first degree was in English literature and journalism, but I took a lot of creative writing courses. But I did write a lot as a child, as a teenager, and a young adult. And then I suffered from many years of writer's block, and recently have started again. And it has been a humbling process, very daunting, and riddled with some self doubt and anxiety. So I'm going to give you some tips that might help you. And now these can help seasoned writers, people who are going back to it like me, or if you're brand new to it, this can help you. If you're a college student, for example, who wants to write an essay on your own, this can help you. So hopefully you'll enjoy these tips. So the number one thing to do, in my opinion, and from my research, is to just simply write. Just write. You can't get any better at writing unless you write. And this, of course, can apply to most things in life, right? But just write. Just do it. And building on that, allow yourself to write badly. Allow yourself to suck. hmm Yeah, I had a really hard time with this. I still do. But giving myself permission to write badly, to write poorly, makes it more likely that I'm actually going to write. So rather than waiting for the inspiration, just write. Just write free form. You don't even, doesn't even have to be a poem or a story or a chapter of a book. Just write and give yourself that permission to just, it can be bad because you know why? At least it's writing. And once you've written something, you can leave, come back to it, and refine it. But you won't have anything to refine if you don't write anything. So allow yourself to suck. Allow yourself to write poorly. That's really been helpful for me because I do struggle with this self doubt. And speaking of self doubt, we all have this inner critic. I guess most of us, some of us don't. I envy those people, but most of us have inner critics. And one way to handle this, I've found, is to give your inner critic a name. You know, if you do any fiction writing, you could pretend it's a character, honestly, but give your inner critic a name. Whatever name you want. A silly name is fine. I've named mine Gertrude. And why? Because I associate the name Gertrude with a person who's very judgmental, uppity, and who's always telling you you're doing something wrong and that you suck and should just forget it. So I've named my inner critic Gertrude. So now this inner critic is separate from me. This is not me. And Gertrude's a silly name. So I can look at it and say, okay, that's Gertrude talking. It's not me. I'm just going to continue. And another thing you can do with this inner critic is set up a dialogue with it. Write a letter. Write a letter to your inner critic. Tell your inner critic how they make you feel. And tell your inner critic why you're writing in the first place. Set up a dialogue. It makes it a lot less scary. And another that I should have said at the very beginning is to know your why. Why do you want to write something? Again, this can apply to a lot of things. Why do you want to create something? Why do you want to draw something? Why do you want to write that song? Why do you want to take up a new exercise program? What is your why? For many of us who do write, many of us have had stories sitting in one part of our head for years, decades even. And our self doubt has prevented them from coming out into the world or just getting onto the screen or onto paper, maybe never even being released to the world, right? For me, that's my why. I feel like I really need to get these stories out. I've had them in me for a long time and I just want to get them out. So, what is your why? There could be many different whys. Maybe you want to get published. Maybe you want to self-publish. Maybe it's just something you want to do for fun. Just figure out what your why is. And from there, just again, just start writing. Another thing that's really important to do is to read. Now, this is something that a lot of us don't do anymore as much as we should or at all. And I've had to force myself to do it, and I've actually been enjoying it. Over the years, a lot of us have replaced reading with, Netflix, which is fine, doom scrolling on Instagram Reels or TikToks, that's fine, honestly. But if you want to get better as a writer, you have to read. Read the works of other writers. Now, mind you, this doesn't have to be the classics. Unless you're taking a class where they assign War and Peace, you don't have to read War and Peace. You don't have to read James Joyce's Ulysses, okay? You don't have to read a classic. You can read something you enjoy and read something that is related to what you're writing. What I mean is, if you're writing fiction, it's important to read some fiction. If you're writing something journalistic, if you're writing nonfiction, then read nonfiction because that's how you're going to get better. And make sure it's something you enjoy. I'm reading a book from a lesser known author. I wish I could remember her name. Unfortunately, I don't because I don't have it right here with me. But it's kind of a story about the paranormal, which I find really interesting. And it's a story about a woman and they live in, and there's a young girl she befriends, and there's a lot of ghosts in the town. And there's a ghost that someone she used to know that this young girl can contact. It's really, to me, I love the story. It's suspends reality, which I love, and I am really enjoying it. So read something you enjoy. Don't force yourself to read something that you don't enjoy because then you're not going to do it, right? There's no point in doing that unless you have to for a class. And speaking of classes, try to leave unhelpful comments in the past. Now, this could apply to you if, say, you are just wanting to try writing and maybe you remember an English teacher from high school who just said, "You can't spell, your grammar sucks." Just, a lot of really unhelpful criticism. Or like me, I took creative writing courses, even though I was a journalism major and English lit major. I took creative writing courses in college, and man, I can still remember some of those professors. Some of their criticism was valid, but some of it was just really unhelpful, very pretentious, and honestly, it put me off writing creatively for a long time. It really did. And when you think about it, those people, they don't remember the comments they said to you. Well, they just moved on with their lives. They stick with us for a long time, especially if these comments happened as a child, a teen, or as a young adult. We internalize these and make them bigger than they should be. So my advice is just to forget it. Leave those in the past and move on. But building on that, however, is to learn how to take constructive criticism. Open yourself up to critiques. If you write a piece, try to join a writer's group. Take another creative writing course if you can handle it. And put your work out there and get the criticism and try not to be as sensitive. For me, it's much easier as an adult. I actually haven't done this yet, but I'm going to. But it is with other things much easier as an adult, as I've gotten older, to handle criticism. I'm much less sensitive, even than I was 10 years ago, for example. When we're young, though, we're oftentimes more sensitive. And oftentimes the stars in our eyes and a lot can just get, obliterated by some comments. But there's a lot of constructive criticism out there that it's really helpful to listen to because that's how you're going to get better if you want to. For me, I want to get better. So learn how to take those constructive criticisms, learn how to critique others as well, because other people may ask you for critiques. And it's okay. It can sting sometimes, and that's fine, but just try to take it in stride and know that you can improve. And my second to last tip is if you're writing something especially long, like if you want to write a book or something like that, is to divide it into smaller tasks and set smaller goals. You can make a spreadsheet with dates. There's many ways you can do this, but break it up into manageable chunks so you don't just think about, oh my gosh, I've got to write a whole book, forget it. No, just break it up into small chunks. This could also apply to short stories. Just write 2 pages. Make a spreadsheet. I will write 2 pages by Friday or X date. And that can make it a lot more manageable and more likely that you will do it. And lastly, and this is really important, just know that it's never too late to start something like this. You are not too old. Don't listen to people that tell you that. These could be coming from parents, well meaning friends that, yeah, just forget about it. Or what? You're not a writer, or you haven't done that in ages. No, you're you are not too old. It is never too late. And many people don't start doing this actually until an older age or middle-aged or whatever age you are. You can do this. You are capable. And just again, just start doing it. Start writing if that's what you want to do. That's what this topic is about. Just start painting, just start taking photos, just start writing songs, whatever it is, because you're not going to get better unless you actually start. So I hope this helped you. This is really helping me heal from my own writer's anxiety and my own self doubt, which can really lead to writer's block. And it can be really hard to get past. So hopefully these tips helped you. Again, you can subscribe to this podcast on YouTube at Teaspoon of Healing or on your favorite podcast platform. Just look up a Teaspoon of Healing. I will have a few more solo episodes about various topics related to healing from things, and as well as I will have some guests, many more guests to come because this is a new season. So thank you for listening or watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.